All right, hello, welcome to this video. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is unity and oneness. The title of this video is going to be just a little message. Information overload. I just did a video talking about us being baseball players as an analogy or metaphor. I always get those, I mix those up. And essentially what's happening is we are the baseball players renegotiating everything. The way the game is played, who's playing the game, who we choose to play with, how we choose to play, the field and stadium that we're playing in, how that field and stadium looks. And this is all reference to the diamond. So many codes in the whole analogy for a baseball game. Where is that location going to be? How much value system are we placing in that as a player, as a fan, as a manager, as all of those things? So, in a nutshell, moving on, we are in the process right now of receiving so much or plugging into so much. And discernment is key to all of the information that we are receiving and plugging into. And the message that was coming through is, how can we use discernment if we're so plugged into somebody else's story that we're unable to recognize our own still point, our own space of creation? And it's fun I get pulled into these rabbit holes, so to speak. We follow that white rabbit, we go down this path that leads into 10 other tunnels, and all of a sudden, before we know it, we can get lost following that white rabbit, going down those rabbit trails, right? That can lead, those rabbit trails, those rabbit holes can lead to wormholes, that then lead to black holes, that then leads to who knows where, right? Some of us know, but we'll say that then that creates fragmentation, because what started off following one trail leads into infinite number of trails. And before we know it, we go, how do we get here? We haven't been paying attention to our vibration until it's too late and we recognize we're in a place of panic, fear, chaos, and information overload. Yet it can become a form of addiction. Anything can be. And it can be a form of a need for instant gratification. We may not be able to be instantly gratified about when the truth is going to come out, or what truths are going to be revealed, or who's going to reveal those truths, and how they will be revealed. Or I could fill in the blanks. It doesn't have to be about truth. It could be about coronavirus. It could be about anything, really. That we are searching. And now more than ever, it's important to back out of all of that. We can dabble and not fragment ourselves into all of these different directions, because then our intention, our attention, which started off innocently enough, learning the truth about something, is now somewhere else. And we no longer hold the focus and intent of still point, of bliss, of forgiveness, of now. While it is important to recognize that all of these truths that are being exposed, all of the information going on about the coronavirus can be valid in some ways, and they can then, that information can then create fear, sadness, anger, regret, guilt, shame, confusion, hopelessness, depression, anxiety. Those are all, well, anxiety, depression are usually results of all those other feelings, but those are all valid. And we are being invited to recognize that those are coming up. Not only are they coming up for us on an individual basis, they are coming up in the collective. And we are integrating. But if we do not recognize that that is an emotion that's coming up for us, and we continue to feed that down that rabbit trail into that feedback looping system, we get caught in that net, so to speak. And then our energy that began as good intentions gets siphoned and plugged into the exact, we'll call it a matrix for lack of better words, we'll call it a net, a pull, a black hole, if you will, or 10 black holes that are not creation. They are merely echoes, remnants of versions of what was once created or perceived as created that are now falling apart. And we are witnessing that. But we cannot witness that and integrate the emotions that we are here to integrate and to fold into and to create from a new perspective and a new understanding if we are so drawn into those other fields that we don't even realize we're there, which makes it impossible for us to discern which of those is true and which of those is not. Does that make sense? So for us to hear the word discernment, for us to hear the word truth, it's really not about what we're witnessing, although that is important to one level, and I really honor those that are exposing the truth right now. However, for us to discern which is and which isn't, it doesn't matter who, what, when, where, why, in detail as much as we think it does. The basic gist of who's involved and what's involved is important. But the subterranean, the sub-rabbit holes that lead to the black holes that are siphoning that energy is not key. And that leads to what I've been referring to as instant gratification. There is this sense that we want to know when, who, why, what, where, how. Fill in the blanks. Who is going to reveal this? Sorry, I had a slight interruption there. So instant gratification. All of that we may not get instant gratification on. So oftentimes we find ourselves searching for more, because that gives us that, it satisfies our curiosity. But then we become more curious and more curious and more curious. And the guidance team is basically saying, what are we creating in that moment? We're feeding into an echo of what's collapsing. We're feeding into an echo of what is falling apart around us. And while it's important to witness that, while it's important to understand what's going on with the numbers and the coronavirus to some extent, or who's exposing what and how it's being exposed, it isn't what we, unless we're in that group of truthers, of reporters, of doctors, and so on and so forth, are creating. So sometimes we're being invited to pull back out of that wormhole, rabbit hole, black hole that is siphoning our intention and our focus, pulling our intention and our focus back to here. Because when we follow those and we get too addicted to it, because it can become an addiction, we then are constantly feeding that need for more, that emotion, that fear, that anger, that gossip, so to speak, and what gossip feeds. And that puts us in a constant space of duress, fear, flight, anger, hostility. And while there might be those moments of high, like, yes, I can't believe this is finally happening. Or yes, coronavirus is coming to an end, but will it end tomorrow? And how many people will be affected? And will this seesaw? We're being guided to come back into still point, be still and know, and ask ourselves, what are we creating? The importance of family, friends, loved ones, and not feeding the internet frenzy. So That was my main message, using discernment about where our energy goes and how much time we're spending, because our time that we have now, our no time, our time out, is valuable because we are creating, whether we recognize it or realize it or not. But we're being invited to recognize it, to realize it, and feel that. Because when we allow ourselves to feel the fear, the anger, the excitement, the joy, and pull that all into the center of the tornado, the eye of the storm, and create from that space, we are stronger than when we're swirling around over here and swirling around down here. So we're being invited to see that, to come back in oneness and unification with ourselves, and to play and have fun, or sometimes have moments where it's not pleasant and fun, and integrate all of that back into harmony and alignment with the source bliss codes, anchoring that frequency in compassionate witnessing, in integration and oneness. So, in love and light, namaste.